some Dragonflight.
Hello, everyone, internet. Welcome to a very special video show episode. We have Morgan Day, associate. What is your title, Morgan, these days? You've got like 5 different ones on Google.
I'm sorry. Yeah, my title is Associate Game Director.
Associate Game Director. Yeah, I thought that was the best one that I managed to find, so I didn't mention it just in case, you know, the worst had happened and it'd be really awkward. But Associate Game Director of World of Warcraft, and this
talking about if he got
time
demoted.
of alphas and new things and excitement, and he's going to be answering all of our questions today.
Dragonflight questions.
So thank you so much for being here, Morgan. I've got to say, whenever there's any new content drop at all, and these interviews start, you are always out there on the front lines, doing just so many interviews. Yours is the face I see more than any, so thank you for your service.
You're welcome. I go where I'm pointed. I'm always happy to hang out and talk.
That's awesome, thank you. So I've been playing, me and Evie have been playing the alpha for the last couple of days, sort of adventuring through the Azure span and playing with Drakthir and dragon riding. Dragon riding at the moment,
Dragon riding
is
amazing.
Things that's
Dragon
ever
riding
happened
is
to the
amazing.
game. It's even in this kind of early form, it's an absolute triumph. I think it's going to kind of revolutionize kind of minute-to-minute gameplay in Dragonflight.
How are they getting access to alpha? Well, they had to sign up.
It's super fun. I always
and then you just
like
get selected.
You know,
and mostly it's like
think
popular
about how much
people
it changes just your
Beta will
questing
be a bigger
experience,
pool.
right? Like so much of
But
questing
alpha
and
is,
leveling in World of Warcraft is
sometimes
like,
you gotta just
all
be
right,
a
well, I'm
popular
gonna
streamer
aim
or
towards the
something.
quest marker, hit auto run, and just kind of go. Versus Dragon riding, a huge
Dragon
part
is
of our
directly
goal
taken
was
from
to
Guild
really
Wars 2 S,
kind of
so
lean
I've
into
heard.
like the joy of motion and create movement around
Which is okay,
World
of
Warcraft
course,
so much more
Take the
engaging,
good shit
you
from
know,
other
and
games.
with
It's
Dragon
great.
Isles, the zones themselves are gigantic. I'm sure you've seen I think it's one of the largest expansion continents that we've ever released. And as you run around the zones, you can really get a sense of that. So rather than like kind of running in a straight line towards my quest objective, it's so much more interesting being like, oh, there's a big hill over there. Let me like veer off this path
and the
jump
zones
off the
are
hill and
huge,
see
but
if
the
I can
good
get some
thing is
speed.
dragon riding is
So it really
infinitely
changes the way
faster
that
than
you just kind
regular
of interact
flying,
with the world.
which is great.
Yeah, it makes traveling something to be enjoyed, like part of the fun part of the loop, as opposed to something to kind of like avoid or get out of the way, which I think is amazing. The iteration we've seen of Dragonflight at the moment, I guess is sort of halfway through the leveling experience. When we start in Azure Span, it's like the 3rd zone, and so by the time we finish, we've got 3 abilities. Sort of movement abilities with the Drakes, and we've got 3 vigor charges. What is that UI going to look like by the end of the first patch of Dragonflight?
Yeah,
As
so
we go
those
into
charges
sort
are
of
these,
9.1,
and
what
they build up
state
as the bar
are
builds up,
the
and each
Drake
time you use
abilities
one, you can
and-
get like
and the efficiency
faster.
of movement gonna
It helps
look
you
like?
gain speed and stuff.
Yeah, so there will absolutely be kind of like
gonna log
a
secret path. Sounds
progression
good.
of what
I don't
your
know if we're gonna
dragon riding looks
continue.
like you mentioned,
And
you
Grove, we'll see.
are currently looking at it in the Azure Span, and you'll actually be introduced.
I think I'll save this lockout so you can get AOTC next week, because I don't need anything else from Heroic, and then so we'll be able to do a normal next week too, because tomorrow we're not doing this. We're doing mount runs tomorrow.
To it in the very first zone, the Forbidden Reach, pretty early on as well. And as you're questing, it won't change too much through the level up experience. It's really at the max level where you'll get to be introduced to some customization options, like a talent tree, essentially, like a specialization tree of what you want to do. And yeah, there will be lots of options in there that are still being iterated on, but not only will you get new abilities,
No
like
problem.
you mentioned, you kind of have the 3
If we put a good
right
group
now.
together, I'll pull.
I almost want like ability that's literally just like do a barrel roll, like just let me like do a barrel roll. But there's a lot of fun ones. One of my favorites that we're experimenting with that's an available option is the ability to kind of like, it's almost like a bronze dragon themed ability where you can kind of warp back to a starting point where you push the button, you move around, and then you can warp back. So lots of fun options there, as well as things like, you know, giving you additional vigor, increasing vigor regeneration rates, things like that. And for people who aren't aware, you know, vigor is kind of the resource as you're traveling around on your dragon riding mount,
Right.
that you can use to use abilities. And there's a lot
It
of
allows
really
you to do
fun
the
mastery
twists
there
and all that
also,
shit
where
to speed
like,
up.
you know, if you get to a certain
What's up,
speed,
Rabies?
like all these
Welcome, man.
effects turn
I don't know
on
if we're
and the
gonna
sound
continue with this or
changes,
not,
and
we'll
you actually
see.
start to regenerate your
Depends
vigor
on what we
while
get in
you're in
queue.
the air, which is
sound
super
design
cool.
Is immense, and like I
Yeah.
like how so much of the questing you'll do a big kind of quest chain or whatever, and it will always leave you at the top of somewhere really, really high up. And they're like, yeah, okay, we'll meet you at the other side of the map. And you're like, ah, yeah. And you launch
I see what you did there.
Yeah, it's really, really cool.
I've seen quests like that. It's pretty cool.
The kind of setup as it is now in this first build, I've made choices to have it like it is in the alpha now. Is that what you're saying? Sort of I've chosen those abilities and...
Well, I mean, obviously this is always subject to change, but I'm fairly certain that through level up, everyone will have the same experience with their dragon riding. And then at max level, some additional options start to open up. And we really wanted to lean into like the mastery element of this, right? Like the joy of movement, feeling like there's some mastery to moving around the world.
Getting better at dragon flying as it
and also
continues.
like introducing activities. I'm not sure if you even saw them, but there's some like time trial type things that you might run into as you're leveling up.
Time trial.
And of course, we're talking about like,
These
well, what if we
races
could do
look really
like
cool.
races? Like I can race other players and have some fun stuff there and show off my customization options. So really want to open that system up as you get to max level.
That's really, really cool. And I say, I think it's an amazing feature.
It's such a
and
like
I'm really excited
it's
to
way
see
more
sort of
dynamic
how
than
much
regular
further it goes.
flying
But
is
even now,
currently in
sort
the
of
game.
halfway through leveling, it's kind of changed the game, and it is that kind of just joy in getting from one place to the other. So congrats. Thank you. Basically, it's just awesome. Any chance we can name our dragons?
Oh, that would
really
be
like
cool.
the customization options. They're really cool.
Naming your
And
dragon.
There's
Like how to,
a
Hiccup?
personal kind of ownership over these drakes, which I really, really like. And they currently
You
don't
know, I
have
kind of like
names,
auto fly and
the
alt tab
artifacts
out. Well, you'll
in
still be
Legion
able to
something.
do that.
That's
You don't
really
always
cool.
have to dragonfly, but dragonflying
that is a great idea. I don't.
is a much
I don't
more
know.
efficient way to get around.
I can see the quest now,
way
like how to
faster.
name your dragon or whatever. Like just kind of writes itself. But
In the Dragon
I'm not
Isles, you'll
sure
have
if
to
that's an option.
dragonfly,
That's a
but
really cool
in
idea, though.
Azeroth,
I will make sure to take that to the team.
the open
like,
world,
we're still in
don't have to.
early.
You could still regular fly if you want
early
to.
alpha. Like we're not even out to the public yet, which is hopefully soon TM. So there's definitely a ton of feedback that we're looking to get.
Paying for
and
dynamic
that feedback we're really
but
looking to
dynamic
inform
flying is
a lot of
faster, guys.
the decisions that
Point
we
from
make
A to B,
and kind of
the
some of the
quickest way is
triage
to
of,
dragonfly.
okay, do we want to focus on this part of the dragon riding or this part?
The dragon
And
riding.
That feedback will really help that. So if there's a lot of people that want to name their dragon, let us know.
And
Does
if you
that
want to
mean
just alt
that
tab, you could still
Dragon
do that in the
Progress
open world. You
is
just
account
regular
wide
fly if you want to.
in terms of their vigor and level ups and things like that?
Yeah, with our kind of alt philosophy, that's changed a lot over the course of the last couple years. I'm sure a lot of people have seen with 915, we really kind of took a huge step back and kind of revisited
care, I
what
don't
our
wanna climb a
philosophies
mountain
there
to
were
get a
in terms
faster
of
mouse.
alt things and things that were for specific characters. We got to
I mean, I will
apply those
say one thing is there's a
philosophies
lot
in,
of
most recent
porting you
update
up
where
to high
with
points to
Zereth Mortis
fly.
and Eternity's
I've
End,
seen
where there's
that.
a whole lot more kind of catch up
Minus
and
900+%
really
speed,
alt friendly mechanics out the gate. So we definitely have talked about that across all of our systems in Dragonflight and which portions of them will be something that will be account wide versus character specific. For Dragonflight, or sorry, for dragon riding in particular, because it's a mount, mounts are very much so account wide. So a lot of the customization options in terms of the look are very much something that we've talked about being rewarded
This
for
is
your
going to be
account
cool.
there. And
Customizing your dragon
for
is going to
the
be fun.
actual abilities themselves, that's something that we're still discussing.
And flying around the Dragon Isles, obviously, there's been talk.
Can't hear you over this Mountain Dew guy. You calling him a Mountain Dew guy? I think it's going to be cool. I think the dragon customization is cool. I think dragon flying is cool. It's much faster. You guys are talking about efficiency. Dragon flying is way faster than any other type of flying in the game or any other type of travel in the game right now. And you don't always have to climb a mountain to fly. Like Taliesin was hinting at, a lot of quests will automatically like port you or fly you up to the top of a mountain or something, and then you start going down from there. Morgan Day, Mountain Dew guy, whatever. Yeah, so I think dragon flying is a cool addition to the game. I'm excited to try it.
Talk of a new kind of expanded draw distance on the Dragon Isles. Is that in place right now? And will it be just the Dragon Isles, or will it be kind of rolled out across the game?
Yeah, so that's something.
How is it faster if I have to build up and use vigor? But it's not like a constant, like, you do have to build it up. You have to get really fast. But people have tested it out, like flying in the open world, because Drakthir can do it. They can do it in regular Azeroth. People were jumping off and flying, and they were getting from point A to point B, where it would take like 6 minutes, and regular flying was taking 6.5. It was like 6 minutes and 50 seconds to get from point A to point B, regular flight, but they were getting there in 3 minutes and 30 seconds. It was less than half when they were using dragon flying mechanics.
that we mentioned, where these
just gotta
zones are
get
so
good at it.
humongous and
And
vast,
the longer we do it, the better we'll get at it
computers,
too. You build up the
are
skill.
constantly getting more and more powerful. So we always want to kind of lean into the technology there. Currently, that's something that is controlled on a per zone basis. So with the launch
like
of
change.
Dragonflight and the Dragon Isles, that's something that we'll have on the Dragon Isles zones in particular, and we're gonna start there and experiment.
Yeah,
with
I think
that and see
dragon
how that
riding's
goes.
cool.
And then, certainly we're open to expanding that to other zones in the future. Like, it would, always be fun to sit in Dalaran and see how far you can see, sitting on top of the Broken Isles.
I will not be satisfied until I'm sitting in Stormwind and I can see the sword in Silithus. That's when I know it's gone far enough.
Someday.
Okay, and the Drakthir as well, something that we've been sort of looking at and playing with. The sort of minute-to-minute questing gameplay with Drakthir is really interesting. It's got a very kind of thrusting sort of moveset and kind of front-loaded abilities without much kind of ramp-up, so it's really fun for questing. Obviously, it's quite hard to test it in any kind of group environment at the moment. So, as a designer, group of designers, where do you see the Evoker's kind of niche being in group content, both as a DPS and a healer? What will they excel at? What kind of situation would they do well in, do you think?
Yeah, so, very early on when we were talking about the Drakthir, just thinking about the fantasy of a dragon and what that would mean, we were always kind of thinking about, in movies or any kind of fantasy, you always see, like,
tomorrow I know we're going to do Gmod. We might do, we're for sure doing Gmod, like right off the bat. We're going to do Invincible. We probably will do, what's it called? Suramar. And also the Warlord's mount from, was it Blackrock Foundry? Is it Blackrock Foundry? Warlords of Draenor. Yeah, I think so. The Black Hand mount, right? Yeah, what is it? It has to be Mythic. Yeah, this bad boy. Yeah, we're going to try. We're going to do a bunch of mount runs.
Before a dragon takes off, they don't, like, instantly kind of zip off like a superhero. They have this, like, kind of big motion where they duck down and then build this strength and then take off, and it's really powerful. So we wanted to lean into that from a gameplay perspective as well. So we introduced this new mechanic, this kind of empowered or charge mechanic, where you can hold down a button and your abilities have multiple stages. So that will essentially really lean into, like, potential burst elements, like a bursting AoE for the damage dealing devastation spec, or for preservation they're really good at clump, and also those big heals that kind of pay off that planning. But also, the thing that we wanted to lean into really with the Drakthir was this idea of the hybridity and kind of group utility.
Hybridity, I don't know if that's...
And helping out their friends. There's a lot of really cool abilities that I'm sure you've seen in their core class talent tree. Some of my favorites, just to pick a few, are like, they have an ability called, like, Oppressing Roar, that when you use it on a pack, increases the duration of crowd control on everything in the pack. So, like, you can really set up some interesting combos, as well as really help your party out with different kind of buffs. Like, another really fun one is
I feel like it's a compromise for player housing.
Time spiral.
I don't know.
Where it actually lets everyone in your
player housing
use
is just a
their,
completely
like,
different mechanic.
Their mobility cooldown, even if it's on cooldown. So, like, if
it's something that they're gonna have to work on, and they have to integrate it into the game somehow, but not make it necessary. So it's a lot of dev time for something that not everyone's gonna do. It's a tough one.
Along those lines was a major focus of ours.
Cool. Yeah, and because I've been writing a list of all those types of abilities for another video, obviously, and it's not a support class like a bard or something, but it's not a support class.
You noticed that, huh?
Yeah, I noticed that. I'm going to get one. As a discipline priest, I'm going to get a pocket Drakthir to feed me mana all the way through. And also sort of exploring the Azure span. We think we found 2 dungeon entrances. One in the TUSKARRR village on the south coast, and one up by the Azure...
TUSKARRR dungeon.
What's it called? The Azure Archives. Is there anything you can tell us about those dungeons? Because we actually don't know anything about any of the dungeons so far. Are there any kind of fun bosses that you can tell us about, or sort of moments in those dungeons that you've been working on?
Yeah, absolutely. So you did. There are two dungeons. Not too dissimilar from what we've seen in past expansions, where there's a level up dungeon that is associated with each zone. The one that you're going to come across in the Azure Span is Brackenhide Hollow. slight
Brackenhide
spoilery. I
Hollow.
don't know how much you're going to talk about with the zones and the questing through it, but you know, the gnolls and the gnolls have come across this
gnoll
decay
dungeon?
magic, and they're really kind of leveraging that as a weapon against our allies, and that's one of the things that we're really going to dig into in the zone. So that will be something that through the level up experience, you'll be introduced to Brackenhide Hollow with the gnolls in there.
Nice.
That's a really epic dungeon. That is, you know, we have lots of variety with the dungeons, and just in terms of you know, the layout or how we develop them, right? There's the more traditional like dungeon that's like hall room, and it feels more linear. Brackenhide Hollow is one that's actually based in the outdoor world. You can actually explore it in the outdoor, or some elements of it in the outdoor world in
fucking Hogger,
the
I knew
Azure
it.
Span. So it's very,
Hogger's the
very
end
open,
boss.
you know, kind of reminiscent of
I want to show you my
you know,
null
Wrath of
magic.
Rajara. That
She
was like,
said no.
holy moly, this zone is really big, and there's lots of options in terms of how you want to kind of traverse through the space. So that will be the level up dungeon in the zone. And then the second dungeon that you kind of stumbled upon is the Azure Vaults, which, like you saw in the zone through the questing, you meet the blue dragons and Calicos, and you're learning a lot about what's going on there. And the Azure Vaults are a part of this zone. So, you know, sometime around max level, you'll get a message to kind of you know, check out what's going on in there. So that will be a max level zone, or max level dungeon rather, that you open up later.
Nice.
Awesome. Any kind of word on what sort of bosses we might find in that Azure one?
The bosses in there, well, it will have a dragon, I believe. I'm not actually sure. I know, right? There's dragons in Dragonflight. I don't remember exactly all the bosses off the top of my head.
A Hogger dungeon would be
that
bad.
one is
If
a
we see
more kind
Hogger
of
in there, that'd be cool.
traditional dungeon feeling one that is really epic. It's super vertical. You're kind of traversing down as you go and fight all of these really epic
I feel like
enemies.
we've done dungeons like that
and,
before.
yeah, honestly,
Wrath.
I'm so excited to get back to
Hold
like
on, what was it called?
fighting dragons. You know, when I first many moons ago started working on World of Warcraft, and people asked me what I did, I would always say like, I make
The
dragons.
Oculus.
It's super fun. And
You guys remember the Oculus? The Oculus dungeon? That was like a very vertical dungeon, I remember.
it's like, oh, it's been years since
Yeah.
I got to
The
you know,
Oculus
fight
from Wrath of the
dragons.
Lich King.
So I'm just so excited to get
I remember.
back to that.
It's true. Just questing around there.
Very
it was
vertical, I remember.
noticeable and amazing how excited I got every time I got to fight a dragon. Just in Azure Spam.
Legion
There's
had
a
one
couple
like
of
that
kind of
too,
set
yeah.
pieces.
Yeah,
what
nobody
have you,
wanted to run the
where you kind
Oculus.
of face
Nobody
off
did.
with various people.
Sure.
And every time I was just like, that's so cool. That's a hey, that's a dragon. That's awesome. In relation to story, and it's funny you should mention spoilers with the gnolls actually. I wasn't going to, and it's something I managed to avoid quite a lot in the Shadowlands alpha. But I couldn't not do every single quest in that zone that's currently available because I enjoy dragon riding so much, and that kind of like
Nice.
made me go around and complete it all.
I'm telling you guys,
But
are
I'm
talking
basically
about dragon
spoiled
riding.
now for the entire story.
It's gonna
of the
be good.
zone. And I
You're
know
gonna
that
like it.
is. It's becoming more of a common criticism of alpha and PTR and data mining in general. Is there any kind of feeling in the team that you might want to
Drake riding
kind
Raid and Eye
it
of
would be
Eternity,
pretty
yes.
extreme, but
Yes.
you know,
Remember
I
that.
know there'd be a lot of support for literally hiding quest text in the alpha and what have you, and having the missions completed and things like that, or completable, but just wiping the text so there's not sort of
Smashing
story
my
spoilers.
X.
That's the extreme end. But is there any kind of like appetite for that in the team?
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those really interesting aspects of working on a live game, right? Like, how many other games do you play just on your weekend or whenever, where you go into it and like, oh, people have been playing this for months, and there's Wikipedia pages where it's all out there, and there's plenty of guides, and it's all kind of solved by the time the game actually launches. So that's absolutely something that we've talked a lot about in terms of the mystery and how we want to approach not just development on World of Warcraft, but this alpha in particular. So you might have noticed there was a recent update with 925 where there was a few surprises in it, right? There was an entire quest line that people had no idea was going to be there, with Lordaeron and Kalia, and the introduction of some even character customizations, like with the Dark Ranger.
Keep it under
so
wraps.
that's absolutely
I like that.
something that we've been building towards, and that you got to see and experience in 925, and we're really looking to
I don't want to play other
expand
games on my
upon
weekend. I play WoW. Yeah, same thing.
that as we move into the future. That's definitely a part of development that we feel like there's a lot of opportunity there. Even just with Sepulchre, the first ones, and limiting kind of the raid testing and the raid availability there. We're talking about, okay, well, like, what did we learn from Sepulchre? Do we want to apply some of that and limit the raid testing in our raid even for Dragonflight? So certainly, leaning into some more secrets in World of Warcraft, so that joy of kind of discovery is reintroduced in some ways, is something we're looking to improve.
Unlikely to be something that we see represented in this alpha beta cycle, though, I suppose.
Well, I mean, I think there's a distinction there between level up and max level, right?
Sure.
Like with max level content, I think there's for sure stuff that we could, even with Dragonflight development, have some surprises for people once they hit max level and get
Give
to
me
that level of
surprises,
experience.
man. I don't
But
want all the
to your
data
point,
mining
the
shit. I
leveling
want
experience
surprises.
is so core and foundational to World of Warcraft. We really want to make sure that people have a great experience as they progress. And also, there's just fun things that you find when you put hundreds of people in a zone that we might not be able to find as easily when you're just doing it by yourself or with our team of testers.
And quite apart from the main story quests as well, there's so many. The zones are so big.
Dave,
there's
that's
so
a
many
funny one.
side quests kind of dotted around, and it really felt like playing World of Warcraft again. Sort of in a way that it
Back to
hasn't maybe
Azeroth,
for a
baby,
while.
back to
Sort of
Azeroth.
very kind of small scale personal stories and just cool stuff with. I mean, there was loads of
I just
TUSKARRR
don't
and
want
that
pointless
helped.
grinds that won't matter in the
but
next expansion.
at
Will
Endgame,
Jivo.
I've heard reports, and there are people. That say
Borrowed
flat
power is
out
going
that
away.
based on
So
job
there shouldn't be any
listings,
grinds that don't matter.
reports and what have you,
There shouldn't be.
that Team 2 has a specific
That's the
team
plan. Things are supposed to
on,
carry over
like,
from now
outdoor
on.
world content. This is something we keep on hearing, which we haven't, and that content isn't something we've really heard much about.
Yeah,
for
man, I want
Dragonflight. Is
outdoor
that
world
true,
content.
firstly? And if it is, what kind of world content can we expect?
Yeah, certainly. Well, there's always a team working on max level content.
Give us outdoor
but
world
in
content.
terms of
I want
our
world
approach
bosses out
with
in the world.
Dragonflight, philosophically, we're really trying to lean into a lot of kind of the lessons learned through Shadowlands, as well as what we've seen in Zereth Mortis, where there's less of a feeling of I need to log in every day to do these things or I'm going to be behind. We really just want to try to move towards the ability to have just a wide range of
Nice.
options, and when you
Congrats,
log in,
Ghost.
you get to do whatever activity you might enjoy.
I want. You know what I would think would be cool if you're walking around. You guys have seen all the Dark Souls stuff, even if you haven't played it. You guys have seen it. Wouldn't it be cool if you're walking around with a raid group in an open world and suddenly a dragon just comes down and fucking crashes into the ground and everyone has to kill it, and it drops some like really cool, even if it's not loot, it could be like cosmetic or whatever. But wouldn't that be so cool? Like, we're getting to customize dragons, right? Like, we're getting to customize our dragon mounts. Wouldn't it be awesome if that dropped something? Like, he comes crashing down, the raid kills him, and you get some cool customizations for your mount by killing him? It'd be awesome.
And with Dragonflight in particular, I'm sure you have
Dragon
met
Assault,
the
that would be
fun
sick,
band
yes.
of TUSKARRR in Azure Span. So in every zone,
Or like
there's
for killing him, you get to like The Witcher, you hang his head from the side of your mount. Like the dismembered dragon head hanging off the side of your dragon. It would be so cool. Like just a cool aesthetic thing. It'd be a nice like open. It makes the world feel more alive.
to be a faction or a group like the TUSKARRR that you meet in Azure Span.
TUSKARRR will be
where
playable.
they're kind of one of our
Guaranteed.
like major factions, I guess you could call it. And
TUSKARRR will be playable.
there will be kind of unique rewards that we're actually going to be displaying in a different way. We're actually planning to lean into, with the Covenants, there was that renown track where you could really see the rewards that you're going to get as you progress. So, leaning into the visibility of those rewards, but using our kind of end game content philosophies with allowing you to say like, okay, do I want to go work on the TUSKARRR and maybe get some cool fishing rewards? Do
Plus,
I want to go
TUSKARRR played
to the
around.
Northern Plains and do some questing with the
They
centaurs
will
over
be.
there to get some other different
They are
rewards
way
there.
too. There's too much
And
detail in
also
their
trying
models
to
now
lean
to not
into
be
the different
playable.
fantasy of those groups and what activities you might be doing at max level. What a TUSKARRR activity is going to be for the
Blizzard
day might feel
Blizzard
very
clearly
different
put
than,
a ton of work into the new TUSKARRR
centaurs
models,
in the
and when
Northern
you see
Plains
that
who
much
might want
work,
to start
you
a
know
big hunt
they're about
that's
to be
like a big
playable.
public quest that might happen in that zone, or a public event rather that might happen in that zone. So yes, very much the goal is to, create variety and create options for people to do. Max level content and, that max level outdoor content is something that evolves every expansion. I think with the introduction of world quests and Legion is really, one of the biggest
world quests are okay, but I
leaps
want
that
world
we've made
bosses.
there. And with every expansion, we try to evolve it more and more. And with Dragonflight, that's no exception. With
I know we're all
this
kumbaya
idea
now.
of these major factions.
Right, we're all kumbaya. There's no more faction battle, but man, I miss
I
Wintergrass.
feel like I just need to confirm at that point. You're saying
Wintergrass
that
was
the
a great
TUSKARRR, the major
world event.
faction
I love
you
that shit.
level with and get rewards with in the Azure span.
I mean, isn't that going to make everyone happy? Everyone loves
Best
TUSKARRR.
expansion ever, yes.
Yeah.
We've had a little look at professions. Kind of overwhelming at this stage on the alpha, honestly. Sort of the blacksmithing alchemy is what we've looked at, and it looks incredibly deep and incredibly rich and incredibly complex.
Yeah,
We're all going to need a
Wintergrass
lot
was so
more
much
time to
fun,
kind of look at it. It feels like alchemy and blacksmithing are quite obvious ones to add kind of layers of depth to. I know a lot of people are interested in how you plan to add the same level of kind of depth and complexity to some of the more neglected professions, maybe like jewelcrafting and inscription.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that we're going to continue to kind of roll out these professions almost in waves, right? Like we mentioned, this alpha is going to be a lot different than our previous alphas. I know there's a lot of comparisons right now to like, oh, well, this alpha came out here and Dragonflight came out here and this is what they have. But the pace of how we're rolling things out is going to be very different, as well as kind of the philosophy there, where we'll introduce, new content for short period of time, and almost more like raid testing, where we put a boss up for testing and then we take it down. Using that kind of same approach here, where things are happening more quickly, and then we're really making sure to stay focused on specific elements
responding
of the
to feedback
alpha.
very quickly.
So you'll definitely see more of these professions that kind of spin up. Jewelcrafting in particular, like we mentioned, there's a lot of just high level changes that add a lot of depth, like the specialization of your profession. But with jewelcrafting, there's a lot of fun hooks there. Obviously, there's still a lot of depth with gem variety, optional reagents, but also something that we're playing with is like leaning into almost like the old idea of like a meta gem, like a gem that has a unique kind of effect or proc based on, what else might be in your gear. So there's a lot of fun gearing options that we want to open up with professions, and really treat professions as almost like its own pillar of progression and gearing up, the same way that people say like, oh, I gear through Mythic Plus or I gear through raids. We want professions to feel like they can kind of stand on their own in that regard and have an equal amount of depth there.
Is like a stronger focus on cosmetic stuff something that you could foresee for professions?
Well, there is certainly professions-specific looks of our gear now, which is something that's new, and we're introducing with Dragonflight, where there are actually 3 new equipment slots for your professions. I think there's like a tool and then 2 accessories. And while you're crafting,
I didn't know that,
at these workstations, which I think we have a blog coming out.
So now you don't got to keep your mind pick in your bag anymore?
We'll dive a little bit more into these workstations and the gear that you will earn through and use while you're crafting. But when you start, if you're at the blacksmith's anvil and you're making stuff, you actually swap your look. You actually look like the blacksmith and the gear that you have on in those inventory slots. So we definitely think there's like almost a whole new vector of customization, as well as identity. One of the goals with our professions is for them to
I'm not even a big profession guy, but that's cool.
A part of my core identity in World of Warcraft, right? Like if you play like, Blood Elf Paladin, that's your identity, and when people ask you what you are. But we want there to be as much depth here, where you could say like, well, I play a dwarf blacksmith, and that's what I identify as, and I just sit in Stormwind.
A dwarf blacksmith? His class is blacksmithing?
And crafting orders.
Have them kind of craft more cosmetic things to kind of sell on the auction house. Sort of like
certainly.
Transmog sets and things like that, sort of unique ones, maybe.
I can't name any specific examples off the top of my head, but certainly that is a door we would not want to close. Like there's a lot of really cool stuff there, and professions will have unique looks for them as well, where they're getting gear that is kind of unique to what they can make.
Cool.
Awesome. Yeah, and those profession sets look brilliant. So that's pretty much our time. Thank you so much for being here and explaining all of that to us.
It's
the
really
alpha
upsetting to even have
is
NPCs
incredibly
that are
focused at the moment,
beefier
which I like.
versions of
I
Drek.
think it's good to have that kind of
Everyone's still
focused
mad about
sort of
skinny
feedback,
director.
particularly when it comes to kind of talent trees and
I know.
zones and what have you. What can we expect from the next build?
Yeah, well, like, hopefully we will go out to a broader audience of alpha, soon TM. And like you said, right now we have the Azure Span as well as Talents, Dragfear, but we'll have when the news of the alpha going more broad comes out, we'll have a more detailed list of kind of what the phases of our alpha rollout plan are going to be and what's going to be tested in that. So keep an eye open for that, and that'll be out hopefully soon.
And still on course for 2022 release date.
That's what we've said.
Awesome. That's what I've heard.
There you
Brilliant.
go.
Morgan, thank you so much.
There you go. They still
You're an
think the release
amazing,
date is going to be on
interview and
time.
A great guest. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for your time. Have a good day, Tyler.
Nice interview. Nice interview. Professions are going to be a big thing that I didn't give a shit about, but maybe now I will. And you know what we need right now, guys? You know what we need right now? We need some good old outro WoW music.